I like the series overall, but there's some entries that I hate, and there's some I love. Jason Takes Manhattan. Fuck that movie. Let's talk about Friday the 13th. You may know, if you follow the show, or if you just follow movie news in general, that recently, Friday the 13th, well, it's been in litigation. Like, it's been caught up. We haven't seen a Friday the 13th movie since 2009's reboot of Friday the 13th, the one with Jared Padalecki. And the reason being is, one of the reasons is because it's been caught up in court as in who owns it. Between Cunningham and some other, I don't know. Well, they figured all that out. I don't know what all the ins and outs of that deal are, but it's figured out. And probably about a month, 2 months ago, I had said, they were talking about, hey, they can make things again, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with the property moving forward. Well, we have a little bit of news on that, and the first Friday the 13th project has been announced since 2009, not counting the game that came out. They got stalled halfway through. The reason it failed was because of that lawsuit, by the way. Brian Fuller of Hannibal fame and A24 have announced that they are teaming up for Crystal Lake, a prequel series that takes place in the world of Friday the 13th for Peacock's streaming service. So there's a lot of stuff I just said in that. Lots of good stuff, lots of questionable stuff, and then one thing that's kind of like, really? We'll get to that. This is coming from Fuller, I believe. I discovered Friday the 13th in the pages of Famous Monsters magazines when I was 10 years old, and I've been thinking about this story ever since. When it comes to horror, A24 raises the bar and pushes the envelope, and I'm thrilled to be exploring the campgrounds of Crystal Lake under their banner. Susan Rovner is simply the best at what she does. It's a pleasure and an honor to be working with her again, Fuller said in an official statement, hinting to Jason's mother, Pamela. They spelled that wrong, but Pamela making a triumphant return. That could be interesting. All right, so let's talk about the good first. In my opinion, my humble opinion, Friday the 13th's back. Great. I mean, Friday the 13th, it's like this. That series is got some highs, got some lows, got some real middle of the ground. I like the series overall, but there's some entries that I hate, and there's some I love. Jason Takes Manhattan. Fuck that movie. Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. Used to hate those movies. Now I love them. They're great. Go into them with the right mindset. You'll have a great time. And of course, the older films. Except for the sixth one, the one with the telekinetic girl. I hated that one too, or disliked it. Anyway, overall I enjoy the character. I like the Friday the 13th lore and all that. So I'm happy to see it back. I'm happy to see that it got out of court and we're going to be getting some more Friday the 13th action. A24 being involved. Holy fuck, this is amazing. It's kind of like all those pseudo jokes me and Nick were saying a few weeks back or over the past few months about certain properties that didn't have a studio making them yet. Give it to A24. A24 is going to do the Tomb Raider movie. A24 is going to do this with the Daniels and all this and that. Yeah, A24 is doing some amazing things just all around, but yeah, their horror is really good, and I feel like A24 typically releases some quality stuff. Now, some of their stuff is not necessarily for everyone, but I don't think you can look at anything, for the most part, that A24 releases and say, oh, that's just dog shit. And you can look at some stuff and say, that ain't for me. I didn't care for it, but just absolute dog shit? No, they put out some quality stuff. And they have been going hard with the horror here recently. So that stuff, I'm all about. Now, let's talk about the middle of the road or questionable things. Crystal Lake. I mean, yeah, it's great to see Crystal Lake back. That is a mainstay. Crystal Lake is about as Friday the 13th as Jason Voorhees is. But this is a prequel series that takes place in the world of Friday the 13th called Crystal Lake. What is it? What are we getting here? What is this going to be? I mean, they, of course, didn't give us any of that. Is this going to be about Jason when he was a kid? Is that something I really want to see? I don't know. Because like the things that made Friday the 13th interesting and fun was all the stuff that happened years later after Jason died and his mom started killing people, and then everything that happened as a result of that. So what's gonna be about, because the camp wasn't like cursed. It wasn't Camp Blood until she started doing that, and she started doing that years and years later. So what is this going to be about? Because Jason ain't there yet. I mean, if it's a prequel, that's really up in the air for me, because I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't see how they use Friday the 13th. I mean, it does say it just takes place in the world of Friday the 13th, but is there going to be something else that was going on at this Crystal Lake prior to Jason coming in there? And it's going to kind of be like, oh, Jason is coming, always looming over it, that we know it's getting there. Is it going to be some stuff that feels kind of like half-cocked and shoehorned in just because it's Crystal Lake? Now all of a sudden there's going to be all these this other history that we've never heard about, things that happened at Crystal Lake prior to Jason's death and arrival there. They're going to end up changing the canon or something and saying some demonic force or something is there, and that's why Jason ended up the way. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass, but that is the thing that that's up in the air. I'm very middle of the road, and kind of, this could be good, could be bad. I have no idea. But Crystal Lake, so take that as you will. That it takes place in a Friday the 13th world, that too is kind of like, what does that mean? I mean, I know what it means, but is it going to have Friday the 13th stuff in it that we, people are expecting or wanting from it? I don't know. Like that show, Gotham, was about the police department and Commissioner Gordon when he was a police officer. While, yeah, it wasn't about Batman, there was at least Batman in it, and it did have him younger. It tied in. It did a nice job of saying, hey, we're telling our own story, but here's, this is what connects you to it. Are we going to get some of that, or is it just going to be, hey, we know this is Crystal Lake and we're heading? I don't know. And then the bad thing about this, the thing that I can say definitively is bad, and I hate to say that for those of you that care for the service, Peacock. Who the fuck has Peacock? I mean, I guess they're hoping that people will get Peacock because of this show, and it may be a great show, and I think Friday the 13th has a draw, but I don't know if it has that kind of draw. It's not a signing up for a streaming service like Peacock kind of draw. So I'm hoping, because there's been some other projects that were going to Peacock and did go there, but also branched off and went to like Netflix and some other streaming services as well. So I do hope that this show goes somewhere other than just Peacock, because if it's locked to Peacock, it's not going to do well there. Not at least as of now, unless Peacock has something up their sleeve that is going to bolster their numbers tremendously between now and then. The show, if it's locked behind Peacock's paywall, I think most people are not going to pay that. It's just not going to get seen, and that kind of sucks. So, I mean, that's my assessment on what I've seen here. It sounds like these people, at least from what they're saying, are interested in Friday the 13th, have a love for it since childhood, and A24 is involved. That's the thing that makes it the strongest for me. I mean, that we're getting a Friday the 13th series. It's not the first one. I mean, look back at the 80s. There was a Friday the 13th series back then. Had nothing to do with Friday the 13th. That's the thing I'm worried about. Is this going to have nothing? Is it going to be like that series, where it's kind of an anthology series? Campfire stories or some shit? I mean, that could be cool, but why are you calling it Friday the 13th? I don't know. But anyway, it's coming. Those of you that have been looking forward to some more Friday the 13th, not necessarily Jason, we're getting it. It's coming. The first thing. I'm sure we're still going to get a movie. There's going to be other stuff. This is just the first thing we're hearing about because it has been greenlit. It's probably going to be a little while till we see it. But, man, I hope it goes somewhere other than just Peacock, because that's kind of a death sentence. That's the only place it goes. Please go somewhere else. Sign a deal with Netflix or somebody else. Anybody but Disney Plus. I don't see this going to Disney Plus, but you know what I mean. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Are you interested in a Friday the 13th series? Is this something that gets your blood pumping? Are you excited, or do you think this is going to be an utter shit show? It's A24 though. I don't think it's going to be a shit show. I'm more concerned with if people are going to be able to see it. And I'm really wondering, what the hell is this going to be? What do you think it's going to be? Let us know in the comments below.